My dear friends, today we are celebrating life. We are celebrating light against darkness. Do you know there is a day that the world was cold? You can imagine. After the death of Christ, there was real silence in the whole world. The world mourned for the loved one. In fact, after his burial, Jerusalem was cold. Imagine the people walked out of Calvary, some of them beating their chest in desperation. Imagine all the people, and especially those who are following him, those who are faithful to him, they saw the stone that was put at the mouth of the tomb. It was a heavy stone, and no human effort could move it out. The high priests made sure that the tomb was secure. They feared desperation. They feared that Christ, his followers, would come and remove the stone. So they guarded him, they guarded the tomb day and night. So the burial place was turned to a place of tension. Even after his death, there was a lot of tension. He was surrounded by envy of the high priest. Jerusalem was quite cold, and every conversation was cold. The disciples, they were all confused. Their dreams were shattered. Imagine, like James and Jacob, the sons of Zebedee, who were thinking of inheriting the leadership of Christ, their dreams were shattered. Within that silence, something is trying to unfold. The tomb is a reminder to all looked at it that every human life has an end. The voice is silent, and the hands that were used for healing, the hands that touched the blind man and turned him and restored his sight, the hands that touched people with love, the hands are cold and motionless. The tomb was there but silent. Jesus descended into the depth of the dead, a state of waiting. Salvation had not yet come, but he had to go and face those who died before him. He went to the abode of the dead, the Abraham, Moses, and the early patriarchs. Those who were righteous, he opened for them the gates of heaven, because before his death, the heavens were still locked from human being by the sins of our first parents. And since then, the gates of heaven remained opened. So Jesus is the one who holds the key. My dear friends, in this silence, the humanity is united in this kind of surrender. The disciples are shaken, their faith is shaken. Virgin Mary stands in quiet, but with strength and faith and trust that sometimes something good is going to happen. On this day, my dear friends, everything has gone cold. Even the churches are cold this day. There is no mass that is celebrated in any church in the world because Christ and everything is silence. This day, even the altar is denuded. You get to any church, there is no beauty in the church. It's mere silence. The darkness of this night is broken and ended by the great light of resurrection. As you can see the light behind me, resurrection is about a movement from darkness to light. And this is what we are going to do this night as we go for the Easter Vigil. We are going to narrate the story of the journey of the people of humanity from darkness to light. At creation, all was good. That is what we hear from the first reading in Genesis. God was pleased with everything that he created. And as humans increased, sin also increased. And to counter this, God calls Abraham and tested his faith because he wanted to use him. It is this faith of Abraham that gave rise to a nation that God selected to be his nation that is going to bring light into his world. And because of this, despite of this selection, his people, the people of Israel who were selected nation, They get into famine and they find themselves in captivity in Egypt. It is in this captivity that we read that God sends Moses to deliver them from the captivity of the Pharaoh. It is during this time, during the liberation by Moses, that people of Israel started experiencing God's work of redemption. God now is encountering his people. He tried to bring them back and showing them that I am your God and I'm ready to save you. But when people were rescued by God from slavery, even the wilderness, he guided them through the hardships of the lack of food, sometimes lack of water, and he's always there for them. He had covenant with them at Mount Sinai. But when they inherited the land of promise, the people of Israel started rebelling against God. And God is sending his prophets to them. He sends prophet Isaiah, prophet Ezekiel, Baruch that we are reading tonight. All these prophets are bringing hope to the people of Israel. And the hope that they are bringing is that God has a plan, a good plan for his people. That is what we experience in the fourth, fifth, and seventh reading. At the fullness of time, God sent Jesus Christ to free us from sin. That is what we hear in the book of Romans, which is from the letter of Romans to by St. Paul. It is that there is good news, and the good news is that the chains are broken. So this story I've given you is a movement from darkness of the sinful man to the light of the liberation that Christ brought. So what must we do? We have to raise and shine like the Easter candle that is shining in the churches today. The chains have been broken. So do not be like the prisoners who remain in their cells after the gates of prison have been opened. If you remain in your sins, you are like the prisoners who are left and do remain in their chains. Jesus is risen. And as John Paul paraphrased St. Augustine, he says, we are Easter people and Alleluia is our song. We are Easter people and Alleluia is our song. Many says that the tomb is open, but we may not know that's the statement of Mary. The tomb is open, but we don't know where they have taken him. Mary, though he has seen the open tomb, but he is still bewildered. She doesn't know whether Jesus has resurrected. She had not looked in. So John comes in and stands there at the gate of the grave, but it is Peter who gets into the grave and finds that the cloth that had wrapped Christ is laid there beside him, and the cloth that had tied his head was at his side. It is like there is no thief who can fold the clothes. This was a real sign. It's a sign that some change has taken place, some transformation. Leaving the clothes behind is a sign that Christ has left the tomb. Not that there is anyone who has stolen him, but that's a very good sign that there is some transformation from one state of life to another. It was not that he has come back to life like Lazarus. You remember he resurrected Lazarus, resuscitated Lazarus. Jesus also resuscitated the child or the son of the woman at Nain. He also resuscitated the daughter of Jairus. But those three, though they came back to life, they were to die again. So for them, it is not resurrection. But for Jesus, it is not just coming back to life, but it is also a transformation of the way of life. It is just to explain it in human way. It is like when a caterpillar enters cocoon, something different takes shape. A butterfly is born. The butterfly comes out of a caterpillar as a different state, in a different state of or realm of being. It moves differently. It doesn't move like a caterpillar. It's a different type of a creation. So it is just like that. Jesus comes and enters into his resurrection as a different being. That is why after resurrection, he is able even to get into closed doors. Even when the disciples are meeting in the upper room with all the doors and windows closed, he is able even to go beyond and comes and stands in their midst and says, peace be with you. So Easter is not of a celebration of something that is past, but it's a glimpse of something that is coming. My dear friends, Easter, we celebrate two greater aspects of our Christianity: hope and faith. They are not just feelings, like just the feeling of optimism, which is a feeling that can come and go. Hope is not optimism, but it is something that endures. Easter is a hope that looks at a sealed tomb and says, this is not the end. It looks at grief. It looks at our illnesses and failures. It looks at death itself and says, have seen what God can do with our corpse. So I'm not afraid. God is going to do greater things. My dear friend, faith is a conviction that God has triumphed over evil. And Paul says that even if Christ had not been raised from the dead, then our faith would be in vain. It is this faith that made the first martyrs to face threatening circumstances with courage. This faith that we don't live for ourselves, that we live for God. It is this faith that made the first Christians to face their executioners with courage, and they feared not. It is this faith which made even the men of the martyrs of the church to face any kind of threat. My dear friend, it is this faith that we need to have this Easter. We must live as Easter people. It's an invitation to bring our Good Fridays, that our desperation, our hopelessness, into the hands of God. Many of us are carrying situations that are difficult, and we are enduring some relationships that seem to be beyond repair. Sometimes we may be undergoing some diagnosis that has rewritten our future, because maybe you have been diagnosed of cancer, which is a lifelong kind of a sickness. Maybe you have a terminal illness, and sometimes you may face some despair within yourself. Maybe we face some grief that is not clearing. Maybe we have a sin that we are convinced that God cannot forgive us. But my dear friends, Easter has no barriers that it cannot break. It is the witness that God is there for us, my dear friends. As we go through Easter and face Easter with courage, we are also sent as witnesses to that friend, to that family member who is sitting in a situation and thinking that the stone is very heavy. You remember the story of Mary? She goes to the grave and stands there because she thought, who is going to move the grave for me? Who is going to move the stone for me? She bears that courage in faith, but remember that she had gone at night. She's not even afraid of the wild animals that would come and scavenge the corpses that would be buried around that area. She's not afraid. That is the faith that we need to face, my dear friends. My dear friend, this Easter is a time for us to be happy. Do you have anything that is making you feel like you are in desperation? Do you have a stone that is heavy for you to move? A stone that may be an issue, a family issue that is very difficult for you to move? Maybe a situation that you are facing at your workplace and you feel it is very heavy to move. My dear friend, maybe you are facing a difficult friend. Maybe you are facing a difficult situation even in your relationship, and you are feeling that it is a difficult thing to move. My dear friend, Easter is a time of joy. That if we place ourselves in the hands of God, God is able to move any situation the way He rolled the stone that had covered the tomb at the time of Jesus. My dear friends, as we come to the table of God, we need to come at the table of God this evening with conviction that we need to have the hope of John. We are going through, and especially this time, the Easter has come a time when the world is facing a lot of violence among us. Just recently, we celebrated the Muslim Ramadan, which is also another feast that Muslims celebrate their victory over evil. Maybe the Jews recently, or maybe this time, they are also celebrating their Passover. Christians are celebrating their Easter, my dear friends. But as we celebrate all these feasts, we are celebrating them amidst the many violence that is happening. Just The other day, not even the other day, even now, the war between Iran and Israel is escalating every day, bringing up new face every day. My dear friends, America is not relenting, as going on and escalating the war between Israel and Iran. Iran has gone wild and is beating and trying to fight all the nations around them. What is Easter for us in this kind of a situation? What is Easter for us when the coins that they are supposed to help us, and especially for us citizens, the money that we give as tax so that it can help to develop us and to have social amenities is being eaten and spent by a few leaders for their own selfish gains? What is Easter for us? When in one of our cities in Kenya, Nairobi, recently we experienced flooding. Why? Because of poor planning, because the money that is supposed to have gone to planning and preparing and making sewers maybe has gone to somebody's pocket. Maybe somebody has given some few coins, have given money, and has been allocated a riparian land where he has built a building, and that building is blocking the sewage, is blocking the way where the water is supposed, or the rivers that the water is supposed to use. And what happens? The streets flood, and the buildings, cars, and people lose life because of a mistake of one or two or 10 people. What is Easter for us, my dear friends? The word today for Easter is that truth and goodness can never be defeated, but evil has an end. As we go and as we celebrate this Easter, let us celebrate the Easter with hope, lest evil has an end, while good and truth has a way of winning a battle. My dear friend, I wish you a happy belated Easter. Be happy that God has defeated death. He has defeated any kind of struggle, any kind of barrier to our happiness. Be happy. Sing Alleluia, Hosanna tonight, and be happy to walk this path with God Himself. Thank you.